Welcome to Tales of Honor, a podcast with a mission to tell the true stories of every recipient of our nation's highest military award, the Medal of Honor. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Tales of Honor podcast. I'm your host, Christoph Ambrosch, and I want to start off this episode, which is number 618, with a slight apology for those of you who are regular listeners and look forward to these stories dropping twice a week. I have been a little MIA here over the last week, and all I can say to that is I'm sorry, and I can't promise that it's not going to happen again. It is the first time since starting the show that I've done that. Things have gotten very, very hectic. All is well for anyone who's concerned. However, things just got very hectic. Life is picking up. Lots of stuff going around here on the property. Business for me is starting to pick up. So just got extremely busy to the point of just crashing every single night and not having the willpower or the time to write any of these stories. So I'm sorry for that, but you're listening to a new one now, so let's just go on with that. Let's pretend it didn't happen, shall we? I have two birthdays to go over today. They were both on the same day last week, May 13th, 1939. They are both May 13th, 1939. The first up is Mr. Thomas Kelley, who is a former U.S. Navy captain that earned the Medal of Honor for his actions during the Vietnam War. And the other is Mr. Paris Davis, who is a former U.S. Army colonel that also earned the Medal of Honor for his actions during the Vietnam War. They both turned the beautiful age of 84 years old, so a very happy birthday to Mr. Paris Davis and to Mr. Thomas Kelley. That is all I have for today. Just a reminder, all of these stories are available online for you to read and listen at talesofhonorpodcast.com. There's a link in the show notes for you to go check out each story as if you like to read along while listening. I try my best to get as many photos and videos and any other media that I can of these individuals, and I put them in the stories at the bottom of each story online as well too. So like today I have quite a few photos of the recipient tried to get them from before receiving the Medal of Honor, during and after service as well. So I have a pretty good plethora of that for today's recipient online. That is all I have. So let's get into today's Tale of Honor. Gary was born on the 26th of October, 1944, in Henderson, Kentucky. His mother died when he was 5, and he went to live with his grandparents on their farm. Since they were about 90 miles away from Fort Campbell, Gary's uncle took him there when he was 9, and they went to a drop zone and watched some paratroopers train. Gary recalls knowing at that point what he wanted to do, and at the age of 17, he enlisted in the U.S. Army. After basic training in airborne school, he deployed to Okinawa with the 173rd Airborne, where he met Mitsu, and the two were married. 3 years later, in 1965, Gary was reassigned to the 82nd Airborne 2 days before the 173rd received orders to deploy to Vietnam. He instead deployed with the 82nd to the Dominican Republic, and when he returned, he attended Ranger School. Gary graduated in 1966 and remained there as an instructor for almost 3 years, which was when he finally received orders to deploy to the Republic of Vietnam. It was his actions on the 4th through the 8th of April 1970 that would later earn him the Medal of Honor. The citation reads,
Sergeant First Class Gary L Littrell, while serving as a light weapons infantry advisor with the 23rd Battalion, 2nd Ranger Group, Republic of Vietnam Army, in Kon Tum Province, Republic of Vietnam, from the 4th to the 8th of April, 1970.
For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Sergeant First Class Littrell, U.S. Military Assistance Command, Vietnam, Advisory Team 21, distinguished himself while serving as a light weapons infantry advisor with the 23rd Battalion, 2nd Ranger Group, Republic of Vietnam Army, near Dak Song. After establishing a defensive perimeter on a hill on 4 April, the battalion was subjected to an intense enemy mortar attack which killed the Vietnamese commander, one advisor, and seriously wounded all of the advisors except Sergeant First Class Littrell. During the ensuing 4 days, Sergeant First Class Littrell exhibited near superhuman endurance as he single-handedly bolstered the besieged battalion. Repeatedly abandoning positions of relative safety, he directed artillery and air support by day and marked the unit's location by night despite the heavy concentrated enemy fire. His dauntless will instilled in the men of the 23rd Battalion a deep desire to resist. Assault after assault was repulsed as the battalion responded to the extraordinary leadership and personal example exhibited by Sergeant First Class Littrell as he continuously moved to those points most seriously threatened by the enemy, redistributed ammunition, strengthened faltering defenses, cared for the wounded, and shouted encouragement to the Vietnamese in their own language. When the beleaguered battalion was finally ordered to withdraw, numerous ambushes were encountered. Sergeant First Class Littrell repeatedly prevented widespread disorder by directing airstrikes to within 50 meters of their position. Through his indomitable courage and complete disregard for his safety, he averted excessive loss of life and injury to the members of the battalion. The sustained extraordinary courage and selflessness displayed by Sergeant First Class Littrell over an extended period of time were in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflect great credit on him and the U.S. Army. By the time Gary returned to friendly forces, only 41 of the original 476 men had survived. He was informed that he had been recommended for the Medal of Honor, but didn't hear anything further, all the while watching others receive Bronze Stars for minor skirmishes. 3 years later, Gary was told to report to the commanding general of the 101st Airborne, which he thought he might have been in trouble. When the general told him to have a seat on the couch, Gary was even more concerned because usually his reprimands were at the position of attention. He was then told that he was going to receive the Medal of Honor, which he did from President Nixon on the 15th of October, 1973, in a ceremony at the White House. Gary recalls the ceremony being quick, simply because the ceremony took place in between the Watergate scandal and Nixon's resignation. Due to public opinion, Gary didn't talk about the war in Vietnam, even though he remained in the Army until his retirement as a Command Sergeant Major in 1985 after 24 years of service. He was inducted into the Ranger Hall of Fame in 1993, which is also about the time when Gary started to feel comfortable with talking about his experiences during the war. He gave talks with schools and other community groups, and even traveled to Camp Liberty in Iraq several times to support the troops that were deployed there. Gary also served as the president of the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, and he moved to Florida, where he still resides today. He and his wife had 2 sons, Jerry and Larry, both served as officers in the U.S. Air Force, and his wife died on the 8th of June, 2022. Gary L Littrell is 78 years old at the time of this recording. And that was a Tale of Honor. Thank you for listening to Tales of Honor, and if you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe and tell your friends and family. Tales of Honor is written and produced by Christoph Ambrosch, and theme music is Loyalty and Duty by Floruz Music. If you have any questions, you can send an email to talesofhonorpodcast@gmail.com, and please be sure to visit talesofhonorpodcast.com for more episodes and information.